Watch Mojo here, and it's been rough over the years watching the combat class struggle at various points in time. It's gotten a little bit better, but I feel like once again they're taking a back seat to some of the other typings, and making this top 10 list wasn't actually as difficult as I thought because there's just not that many good combat types, man. I don't know. There's just not. I could be wrong about my top 10 list, my personal top 10 list, but again, just as a reminder, standard PSA, this is just my take on the top 10 best combat types in the game, and this would be a list of the top 10 combats if I could only take 10. If I had to delete, yeet, erase the other 66 combat types that I didn't choose, and I could only take 10 with me, these are the 10 that I would take. And we're going to kick off the list with a pretty crazy choice here, Black Knight. I have to pick some supports for each of these lists because you need supports in the game, let's be honest. And Black Knight is basically just a better version of America Chavez. Now, he may not perform as a better version or one-on-one, I haven't tested that out specifically, but he looks way cooler. He provides the same buffs and he looks way, way, way cooler. And frankly, I think he has a better chance of actually getting a tier 4, even though he was released so recently. So yeah, a lot of this comes down to aesthetics for me personally. I just think he looks so cool. Doesn't have the best hit count or the highest hit count. Doesn't have real PvP value beyond that counterattack third skill, which looks decent, just doesn't have a lot of hits. And I think it does have a few extra hits when you, yeah, he does go on an extended combo when you actually do hit him, which I think is really nice, but it's a bit more inconsistent because you have to hit him. That being said, his fourth skill slaps pretty hard where he just booms and creates this like dark red energy. This kind of shit always looks good to me. It reminds me of like Diablo and these kind of medieval, evil kind of darkness kind of games. And yeah, he combines all that with a passive that is pretty mandatory these days for PvP. The 40% HP, super nice. The reduction in reflect is absolutely crucial, particularly when you're playing chess against high reflect teams where they're combining Silver Surfer, maybe Shala Ball, maybe Emma Frost, and they're really trying to whittle you down with reflect. This is what you're going to use to super juice and basically protect your high-end targets, your nulls, your sentries, your own Silver Surfer, your Adam Warlock even. It's really, really important. So it is kind of interesting that it's the same typing as America Chavez. They want to sort of keep this buff in the family, so to speak. But I do think he is a solid choice for a top 10 contention. But I know a lot of you out there would disagree with me and choose a random tier 4. Mid-recording, I had a change of heart. So I had to move up some of the combat types that I had lower, and I had to move some of the other combat types down. And so the way that the top 10 is going to work for me is that my 10, 9, and 8 are all support characters. And I know that's going to rub some people the wrong way because they're going to say, oh, you're not going to choose somebody like Dr. Octopus or Kingpin. They're so good. They're useful for this day or that day of ABX or ABL. But here's the thing. Rather than just having like one extra DPS for one extra day of this game mode, I want, if I can only choose 10 combat types in the whole game and I have to flush the other 66, I want to choose the ones that are going to give me the most flexibility, that are going to give me the most range of value. And so just picking up 10 DPSs can sound right to certain people, it just doesn't make sense to me. That being said, I was kind of undervaluing some of those DPSs, some of those hybrid characters. So I want to apologize to Mr. Fantastic. He was originally my rank 9, and my new rank 9 is Agent Venom. And I actually think Agent Venom is solid enough to be someone's top 5, frankly, because he's a solid leadership with physical damage to all allies. He is not the greatest on his own, but he has really fun animations you're going to see in a second. And then, of course, between his artifact and his uniform, he has insane buffs for the symbiotes. He basically enables the symbiote subclass to exist and thrive and dominate. And if that's not worthy of a top 10, I honestly don't know what is. So they kept his V-Pad 4th skill, which is one of the coolest in the game, where he spins around, shoots out not only bullets, but also like symbiote bullets, which looks so sick. And then his 5th skill, he just drops a bunch more symbiote goo that pops up symbiote tendrils that have guns on them that shoot. So you can have the symbiotes shooting out guns from the ground while you're in the air shooting out even more. It's awesome. It's awesome. If your two favorite things in the world are symbiotes and guns, this is like your heaven. This is your nirvana. So I think that's really dope. I am a little bit, disappointed that he isn't stronger on his own. He does have that sort of like support syndrome where he's so good as a support they can't make him strong as a standalone. I do hope one day he does become strong enough on his own, because I think he's actually really, really dope and really, really cool. But until that day comes, I'll still use him as a standalone character. No combat top 10 would be complete without a mention of Colossus. This guy, for some players, is a relic of PvP's past, and they don't really use him anymore. But man, he held the game together in PvP since 2019 or 2018. He's been holding it down with Pteor's will, and just, changing the landscape of how we look at PvP teams, how we combine different characters. And they basically had to create an entire leadership in Molecule Man to counter Colossus. That's how good he was. So he hasn't really withstood the test of time necessarily, but I would be ashamed if I didn't sort of, give him kind of a legacy top 10 choice. He probably should be 10th or 9th on this list rather than being 8th, but we'll chalk it up to him being a mutant as well, him having insane drip and swag from the Hellfire Gala, and despite having one of the worst and stinkiest artifacts in the game, that isn't even, I shouldn't even have equipped this. I should have just used it to reroll a better artifact. Colossus is still sick. Now, he's strictly a support. Right now, he's not going to be anything else. There are some niche cases where you can use his physical immunity leadership. There are some cases where that does work, and he has Reflect. A lot of people forget that Colossus has Reflect. You can get really cheeky if you're playing manual timeline battle, and you can actually get some stealth kills or some stealth immortality activations on Wolverine and Null if you're quick enough with your fingers and your Colossus doesn't get one-tapped. That being said, he's not tier 4able, so his value is quite limited, like Black Knight. Coming in at number 7, we have Apocalypse, and I feel bad for this guy because we rallied behind him and tried to get him some buffs, and it really wasn't enough. He does have a cool iframe ignore skill with a bit of penetration and some immunity, but he really should be stronger considering how difficult he is to obtain, considering that he is El Sabanur, that he's like the original mutant, that he's been alive for thousands of years. I love the context of his character's lore and backstory, the Egyptian god, the sort of like in the tomb kind of thing, resurrection. He's so cool. He's so sick. He's got such a sick design. He creates the Heralds of Apocalypse, which, famine and war and stuff like that. Those guys look so sick. What he does to Gambit and all those other guys. He's so important to the mutant and the X-Men lore. He really deserves a higher place in the game's meta. That being said, I can't really rank him higher than 7th in this case because he's just not that good, particularly for PvE content. He really doesn't bring the juice the way that he should. He's mostly for PvP now, despite the fact that his roots are in PvE. When he was originally in the game, he was the ABX combat villain, OG. Yeah, a lot of people forget that, but that was his role all the way through to Messiah Complex. Nowadays, he is squarely a kind of support / DPS hybrid for Conquest and TBA teams, mainly because of the debuff cleanse. All mutant allies get cleansed. This is a very, very nice support, and you can combine that with his lead to give the allies even more attack, defense, and speed. And then on top of that, especially with his 4th skill, Apocalyptic Ritual, he has a ton of AoE and crowd control. So what he lacks in damage, he makes up for in just locking enemies down through incapacitation and through stacking buffs. Like, look at each of those mobs. They have 5 debuffs on them. They're stunned, they're paralyzed, they're silenced, they got all defense down. It's absolutely bananas, and that's just on one skill. When he gets going with the combo, he's stacking close to 10 buffs, close to 10 debuffs on the enemy, and you can see how widespread the AoE is, that I'm hitting almost every single mob, and I'm covering at least half of the full arena, and that's not even considering or taking into account the tier 3, which then basically does the same thing on a different scale. So I think Apocalypse is really cool. I think he was actually done dirty by the devs. He's got like teleportation. He's just such a cool and well-designed character. I love the sand. I love the mixture of colors, the blue, the white, the purple, the red. I think he should be stronger. Mr. Fantastic is number 6, and like Apocalypse, I think that they did him dirty. I'm very biased to the combat class. I think they should all be, or almost all of them should be stronger than they are, but we've talked about Mr. Fantastic for a while now. Last year's uniform spelled out that they were getting one this year and that it should be stronger, and it wasn't really. And I think the design choice and the design quality is really indicative of how I feel about the combat class. We may have peaked, boys, in whatever year this was, 2022. for the combat typing, because look at how much drip Maker has and how little drip he has now. He just looks like a freaking dork, man. It's crazy. That being said, Mr. Fantastic is awesome. He's the first character in my top 10 that has true hybrid potential for both PvE and PvP as a damage dealer. He's also the premier leadership for the Fantastic Four, self-buffing lead, absolutely huge. Pair that with a character who has now a very easy rotation, very, very easy to play, tons of hits, you know, flashy, combines punching with stretching, so he still feels thematically like Mr. Fantastic, but then he can get it done. He's got the counter attack, iframe ignore third skill that they made a lot more consistent in terms of the hit count, in terms of the confirmation. So that's really good. He's actually so good, he's draining the battery on my phone. And then all that gets culminated with a tier 3 skill that is straight out of Star Platinum JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I can never get enough of this tier 3 skill, man. It is so sick. When you turn the tier 3 on, the animation, the SFX, whatever, he does the little like thinking emoji, and then he just punches the shit out of you. He's like, you know what? The best solution to this problem is to just beat you to a pulp. Kicking off the top 5 here, we have Carnage. And just like Mr. Fantastic, I know a lot of you guys are saying, man, this look sucks. And I could not agree with you more. Again, I think that combat types visually peaked with their second last uniforms. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, man. Fallen Soul Carnage is insane. This could easily be an Elden Ring boss. He looks so cool. And they opted for whatever this is, bald cap with you know, Matrix-inspired Halloween costume and guns. Now, yeah, the guns are cool, but I feel like Agent Venom just does it so much better than Carnage does, and it's not really Carnage's bag. That being said, as a character, as a playable character, what he sort of lacks in support abilities, he makes up for with insane DPS on his own. Absolutely bonkers survivability, one of the tankiest characters in the game with the right supports and the right build, and then a really good leadership that I think a lot of people forget for symbiote allies. So he actually is a very flexible hybrid character like Mr. Fantastic, basically just a better version of Mr. Fantastic. Does rely on support buffs from Agent Venom for PvP, the way that Mr. Fantastic relies on Franklin and other Fantastic Four members, but for PvE, he is just crazy. Probably a little bit harder to play than Mr. Fantastic for PvE. Doesn't really have a proc-friendly rotation, so you do have to play him with a rage or something like that. But you can, as you can see visually, you get the best of both worlds. You get the explosions, the flames, the spikes, the bloodiness that you're used to seeing from a Carnage. And then it's really just the tier 3 skill that I think should be instantly cancelable. I'm tired of having to wait for him to get into the air. He's not an airborne character, man. He's not. That's really my only gripe with the character, is he kind of turns into like a flying character. If you could just instant cancel it and not have to wait for him to get up and start shooting, I'd be happy. Now, when you cancel it, it's really cool because it's like blood is raining down. That's awesome. And he hits super duper hard. He has that accumulation based on damage taken, so you can play super aggressively and still be fine. 4th skill has good AoE. 5th skill we know is the crazy one with the damage proc now and the iframe ignore. So they really did this this design well in terms of like the buffs. It was a huge upgrade from Fallen Soul. All right, so the ABX ABL Mafia came around my house and threatened to break my legs, so I put Gladiator as my top 4 combat character. I haven't had an ABX ABL character on the list until now, and I was told that if I didn't have at least one, that they would do horrible things to my body. And so because of that, we're putting Gladiator here. No, jokes aside, Gladiator is a really good character, and despite not having a presence in PvP right now, he actually has the bones for a very strong PvP presence. He has tons of damage reduction. He has lots of healing, both auto healing and sort of below 40% healing. He has super armor. He has like very, very high damage. He's got a very good leadership. So he really is a multifaceted character, despite only really being meta right now for ABX and ABL. And I say only meta for ABX ABL, but he is dominating that game mode. A lot of people forget, but he really carries a lot of different days. He's a self-buffing lead, and he really dominates, whether it's combat hero, whether it's alien hero. He just does it all. And on top of all of that, you have a character who is our closest facsimile, or our closest, you know, comparator to Superman. And so until Hyperion gets a tier 4, we have this guy here, absolutely insane, beats you up, blasts you with the laser eyes, hits you with the cold ice breath, Just really cool. Some of the sickest animations that combine brutality with lasers. It just looks awesome, man. Just looks absolutely awesome. He punches the world, or he punches a hole in the world with his tier 3 when you turn on the SFX. And for 3RL and the announcer, he's also one of the fastest characters in the game. Look at this. With the cape flowing, you just feel like you're a god. So I look forward to Gladiator getting a new uniform in the future. I don't really like his playstyle, if I'm being honest with you guys, having to delay cancel 5. Don't get me wrong, it looks really cool. He's like flying around you while lasering you. It looks really cool. It's just not that fun to execute. That being said, he has the bones to be such a dominant character. He is obviously very hard to obtain through the epic quest, and he is worthwhile. He's also the original tier 2 to tier 4 character, so I gotta give him big ups and props for laying the groundwork, laying the foundation for characters like Shalabal. Kicking off the top 3, my boy Venom. And technically you can use Venom in ABX ABL. Technically you can. Mostly for like silence season, or if you're just a goofy person like me. He's not going to be the top meta, but he's easy to play, fun to play, and he does quite well. And what he lacks, like Gladiator in PvP, he makes up for with tremendous PvE value. And he still, surprisingly, has bones for PvP. One day, I think he could be good for PvP because, like all combat types, he has very, very high base stats, defense, and HP. He's got 30% damage reduction. He now has auto healing, like Gladiator and like Wolverine, so he has that going for him. He has increased damage, increased crit. He's got super armor. He's got a lot. He actually has a lot. He's just basically missing a leadership. He doesn't have a leadership. But that's basically the only thing he's missing. Now, on the PvE side of things, I think a lot of people underestimate Venom because of his tier 4. His tier 4 is so special because the globs that are dropped charge up your tier 3. So you really have to get into a playstyle of popping the tier 3 and then popping the tier 4. And Venom is actually one of the few characters who, although you still want to spam the tier 4, sometimes you want to hold it for a second. If your tier 3 is about to be charged, if you're at like 97, 98 on the tier 3, hold off on the tier 4. Because if you pop the tier 3 and then the tier 4 and then go around with the 4th skill V-pad, you can charge up back to full and then pop your tier 3 again. And that's just more and more symbiote dinosaurs that you get to use that look insanely good and hit insanely hard. And that also triggers his accumulation, which then ramps his damage even more. So I just love his synergistic playstyle. I love the fact that you have to be spatially aware of where he is. And then you have a sort of mini game built into when you're playing as Venom. I think it's one of the coolest things in the game. I think more characters need to have this because basically when I have that tier 4 skill up and I have the globs up, I actually stop attacking sometimes to go and collect them. Because that means I'm going to charge up my tier 3 even faster. But it also means like if I took a bunch of damage and I'm low health, even though I'm auto healing, I can go and pick up those globs to heal even more and ensure that I don't lose the battle. So not only is he insanely high DPS, has a really fun and like sort of feedback friendly playstyle where as you get more comfortable playing with him, he becomes easier to play and even stronger. But on top of that, he's super tanky. Between the defense, the damage reduction, and the crazy healing, he has a heal, I believe, on his 5th skill. He has the auto healing, and then he has the tier 4 heals that you pick up. And then not to mention, he has the V-pad, man. The V-pad is so sick. He spins around, flames, guns. It really just feels like a better version of Carnage and Agent Venom combined. And so our runner-up is the big Titan Hulk. And I think, despite the fact that I really like this uniform, I think a lot of people would say, again, not to meme on this, but a lot of people would say his older looks were better. These are cleaner looks. These are more true to the roots of the character. Titan Hulk feels like a kaiju from Pacific Rim or from a Godzilla spinoff or something. That being said, I still really dig it. I love the lightning. I think the lightning is really cool for Hulk. His shoulders look like volcanoes. I love the infinity skill. I think MFF needs to get back to infinity skills, man. There was a time when so many characters, Cyclops, Cable, all these characters had infinity skills, and it was so fun. I'm not even going to review the rest of his skills in this breakdown because you only need the infinity skill. The other skills are really cool, don't get me wrong, like they are really good, but the infinity skill is just so sick. Oh, what the heck? Oh, my bad. The infinity skill ran out because the enemies got pushed too far back. Damn it, Hulk, you're just too strong. That being said, Hulk is one of the easiest characters to play in the game, so it's super duper fun and it's super satisfying that he's so strong for ABX and ABL and also pretty good for World Boss Legend. He's basically like a better version, a cheaper version of Gladiator because he combines all the benefits with a much easier package and playstyle to understand, and he still maintains, albeit not much, some PvP value. He did lose a bunch of PvP value from his older uniform based on the fact that he lost his iframe ignore, or they moved it to a skill that's kind of inconsequential. But what he traded in PvP value, he made up for in tremendous PvE value. Now, he still has a bit of an awkward trade-off where his damage all comes from his HP, so you do have to balance out your cards a little bit more carefully or a little bit more PvP focused if you want to make the most of your Titan Hulk. But one tip I can give you is that ISO 8 set bonuses still buff his damage. I can't explain to you the logic behind it, but if you're wondering what set to give him, go with Power of Angry Hulk or Overdrive, because it will actually buff his damage, despite the fact that the wording says all attack, and his attack actually scales off his HP. And so it comes to number 1, Wolverine, our hybrid king. You guys knew it had to be this way. We highlighted how strong and underrated he is for PvE in a video, I think earlier this year, where he absolutely obliterated like stage 70 of Kang with a proc CTP. His build and his playstyle super easy, and he is still just one of the most insane and consistent PvP characters in the game. One of the few combat types, if not the only one, that can actually take out and kill Adam Warlock in PvP action, and still just so satisfying to play and to watch just shred through enemies. Truly the most deserving character in the game of an immortality passive, because he is truly unkillable. And yeah, I think everybody should build Wolverine, man. He's so sick. He's so sick. He certainly doesn't have the highest PvE potential of all the combat types, but he has the highest PvP potential. He's an insane tier 4 striker, so if you need him as a striker, he does tremendous damage doing that 5th skill, using the TVA teleportations to just zip by. It just looks so amazing. There's slashes like crazy. The car makes a cameo as well from the movie, which is nice. Deadpool makes a cameo. He's just top to bottom so good, man. He's got the trailing graphics because he's moving so fast. I just love it. Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to think that this uniform is over a year old and it still feels so fresh. Maybe it's because recently this year we've gotten some bad reworks, but Wolverine's, you know, his whole kit is just so good. It's such a smooth playstyle, 3-4-5 cancel. Really just top to bottom, so well designed, and still also holding his weight, like whatever, carrying his weight, punching above his weight in PvP. So I gotta say, you know, very deserving of a top 1 position. Still underrated for PvE, so check him out there if you haven't, especially if you don't have the artifact. It's just like a smooth progression for how you can enjoy him first in PvE, and then when you can snag the artifact at a high level, you can position him, you know, transition him to PvP. But I think he's just absolutely stellar and a fantastic addition to anybody's roster. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of my top 10 list for the combat types, and I will see you in the next Watch Mojo video. Take care.